to write this down. If your character shifts depending on who's in power, was it really your character to begin with? That was very telling to me. Also, and when people say that we're rough on Richard Thomas, I say that to him as well. If your character shift once you got in office, was that really your character? I mean, the things that you talked about when you were city councilman and you were real hard on Mayor Davis for various things, and then you go in and get that, and you go in and do those things and worse. If your character shift when you got in office, was that really your character? That's all I wanted to say. Welcome to my partner in crime, Black by popular demand, Damon K. Jones.
Yes. What's going on? What's going on, family? And there's a saying, man. I posted on Instagram at Damon K. Jones. If someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what it is. People will front, but there's always a day that they're going to show you who they really are.
Absolutely.
And when they do, believe them on it. Believe them on it. So it, you know, but that also comes with maturity. So, you know, we have to roll with the punches on that. But I think in the day and the age of having elected officials and having black communities that are suffering, you know, we have to have give a very good analysis on who we're voting for, why we're voting for them, you know, and what is needed in our communities.
And before I go on, I'm not sure if Dr. Bob's on his way, but that's him calling me twice while we're on the air. But Lorraine wanted me to extend her love and apologies today for not coming to the show. She's been running around. It's hot. You know what I'm saying? She didn't want to leave the dogs in the house by themselves. So, you know what I'm saying? She's been running back and forth from Brewster to Yonkers and Mount Vernon and back. So she decided to chill today and relax. So she wanted me to extend her love and apologies for not being on the show.
Hey,
today.
That's all right.
And she's tuned in. So what's up, Lorraine?
Hey, what's up? What's happening, Lorraine? That's all right. It looked like y'all had fun at the barbecue.
Oh, yeah. So I went to a barbecue yesterday. That's another thing. She drove from Brewster down to Mount Vernon to come pick me up, to take me to her brother, because her brother Hector invited me to his barbecue in Poughkeepsie. So she went from Brewster to Mount Vernon to Poughkeepsie, and then back again from Brewster to Mount Vernon to Brewster. I mean, from Poughkeepsie to Mount Vernon to Brewster. So she didn't want to get up in the car. She don't even want to see the inside of her car right now. You know what I'm saying? And that's totally understandable. But I want to shout out. We went to a little cookout yesterday, a little meeting of the minds with several of the Latino leaders in the community. It was definitely a cool gathering. Some of them included the Westchester Department of Corrections First Deputy Commissioner Anthony Molina. We chopped it up a lot yesterday. Of course, her brother, who's the Westchester Hispanic Law Enforcement Association president, Hector Lopez. We had salsa legend Willie Colon there, New York City appellate Judge Rivera, Lorraine's sister, who's a compliance officer at HSBC in Greenberg. Damon, you said, there was Raymond Munez. I think he's a sergeant of the litigation unit or something. Whatever. I think he's a sergeant or something.
He's a sergeant.
Okay.
He's a sergeant.
And then there was, and who else did you say? Jose, what's his last name?
Sergeant Chavir.
Yeah, he was there. And there was several other people there, and there was a lot of discussion going on behind the scenes, you know, about a couple of things. You know, shout out to everybody who's tuned in. I see Uncle Frank's tuned in. Who else is tuned in? Let me pull it up. Brenda L. Crump, as always, is tuned in. Louise from Greenberg, she's tuned in. David Duarte is tuned in. Robert Baskerville, Bob, I know you called me twice. but I was on the air, so I didn't pick up.
I guess he's not coming because
Yeah,
he's online.
Yeah. Who else? I see Lyndon Williams. Welcome, Lyndon Williams, Westchester County legislator for Mount Vernon. The Future Society just clocked in, and everybody else. So just hit the streets this weekend. Sean Patterson Howard just tuned in. Just hit the streets this weekend. Oh, and I left a copy in the car. I wanted to show it on the air.
Yeah, I get it.
The July issue hot off the presses, which is our 12th issue. Next month, August, is going to be our 1-year anniversary of the newspaper. I can't believe that has been 1 year since we dropped that first paper, August 2017. August is the 4-year anniversary of this radio show. Our first show was August 3rd, 2014. That's first Sunday. And coming up in a couple of days, July 15th, is the 4-year anniversary of blackwestchester.com. So we've been here for 4 years, people. 4 years. We've accomplished a lot. We've covered a lot. We've had various guests on this show, state senators, county legislators. I mean, the list is endless of all the people that we have. And like I said, we this month, our 12th issue, the July issue, which is flying off the stands, like literally we're almost out because they're going off the stands as quick as we're putting them up, has an investigative report of bring me one too, so I can hold investigative report on Joe Spezio. Damon went to the car to go get it. This is what the cover looks like for y'all. I guess that's the picture. Yeah, you can see the whole thing right there. Yes. So, Damon, tell them what's in this issue. What's some people have said this might be the best issue we put out.
I think this is one of the most informative issues that we put out in Black Westchester. Big shout out to AJ for doing his due diligence in reporting the facts.
And shout out to Dr. Bob Baskerville, who was very instrumental in the research and the writing. And before we go on, Lorraine wanted to mention she's not here. What is this, week 3? Spano has not called to come on the show. So this is week 3 of the Spano Watch.
Week 3, Spano Watch. Week 3, he has yet to come on.
Or call us back. Yeah.
Oh, you even call us back?
Well, I think he.
Come on, man.
I think he called and he couldn't come when there was something. Lorraine will have to explain all that next week. I'll let her explain that whole thing. All I know is it's been 3 weeks since he's been invited and he still hasn't been here, and we're on Spano Watch. Go ahead, Damon.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the most informative issues that came out of Black Westchester, and it was it's the facts, and we stand by the facts. And as publisher, if you feel that whatever is in here, Mr. Spezio, then sue us, and let's go to court, and let's pull out the paperwork, let's pull out the documents, let's pull out the recording of the interviews with the people that we interviewed, let's put out other recordings, that we have on file, and let's put out more documents. Let's pull out city documents. Let's pull out county documents. If we have to, we will subpoena AAA carding, CRP carding, and other people to talk about what's in here, right? So we are prepared as journalists, as a newspaper, as a magazine, as an entertainment company, as people that just want our people to know the truth. We're prepared to even go to court for that. So, like I said, I think this is great. I think people should read it because they should understand who's controlling the city. They should understand what's going on. I mean, this will never happen in any other city but a black city. We question the
There's some
county.
black cities this wouldn't happen in.
Well, yeah.
This wouldn't happen in Newark.
No, it wouldn't.
This wouldn't happen in Newark.
No, it wouldn't happen in Newark. It wouldn't happen in Newark.
So you can't even say a black
Right.
city.
It wouldn't happen in Jacksonville, Mississippi. This would not happen.
I don't think it'd happen in Philly.
I know
either.
people in Jacksonville.
I don't think it would happen in Philly.
Right. No, it wouldn't happen in Philly neither. But this is something that the public should know what is actually happening and what is going on and who's calling the shots. You know, it is what it is. Nobody can get mad because it's the truth.
Okay, real quick. So for those who missed it, Lorraine took off today. She'll be back next week, and she'll be with us tomorrow on our show on VOX, the Black Westchester Power Hour from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. I just want to say, in doing this is kind of the first real investigative reporting, the big investigative report that the paper has done. We've done one or two on the website, but there was so much paperwork and so many documents and up to 7 more people who I didn't get a chance to speak with, 3 of which were calling me because they wanted to tell me what was going on. I didn't have to reach out to them. They were reaching out to me. So there will be a continuation probably. There will be a continuation in the August issue because there was just too much things to fit on these pages. I mean, it's the centerfold 14 and 15. It overflows to page 24, and then another little part of it overflows to page 26. There was just too much to put into this paper. I hope everybody, feels how it went down. I mean, feels it, reads it, and gets it. And I say in the opening, like I just said, we're celebrating the 4-year anniversary of the website and the radio show, and the 1-year anniversary coming up next month of the paper. We understand, that we've become somewhat of a force that that has a power to sway public opinion and serves as the impetus for government reform, and we take this role serious. And it was our effort in uncovering corruption in government, crime, corporate misdeeds, environmental destruction, and abuse of power. We attempt to deliver watchdog journalism. Somewhat of what we do, I guess, will fall under watchdog journalism. Bob says community journalism, whatever you want to call it. Shout out to Mount Vernon firefighter Mike Holt. Shout out to Anthony Old School Mitchell. Shout out to Latif Khalees. Thank you. He said happy anniversary. We need an applause for that. Okay. Shout out to Shay Thomas. Shout out to Sean Barrett and everybody else that's listening either on Facebook Live, Periscope Live, on the website, www.inthemix.com, and that's with 2 X's. So everybody listening on the various channels, we thank you. We appreciate you. We couldn't have done this without you. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, I mean, we got the best radio show and the best paper and the best website. If nobody check it out, nobody read it, nobody listen, we just talking to ourselves. So we appreciate all of you. Yeah. Damon's about, what are you going live? You trying to go live real quick?
I'm trying to go Instagram live.
Oh, he's about to go Instagram live. See,
I'm just trying to figure out how all this thing is going, man. I still feel like I'm an old man with this stuff, man.
We on all the various social media outlets. Brenda L. Crump, Black Westchester Magazine. Oh, she posted a link to. Oh, she mentions what we talk about in the cover story and posted. There's also a digital version. If you're in the area where there's no more papers left, or outside of the area where we're distributing the papers, there is a digital link where you can actually read the newspaper on your computer, your phone, or whatever. And Brenda has posted it on in the comment section. And thank you, Latif Khalees. He wrote, "We're underrated." Shout out to Patricia DeLuca once again. She's been listening the last couple of weeks. She's the former editor of that magazine, King Magazine. It was a Harrison Publishing magazine. It was a dope magazine. I enjoyed writing for them. We also had some new writers. Atif Khalil wrote an interesting piece called Tainted Crack in Mount Vernon.
Great piece. Great piece.
We had an American journalist who lives in London for the last 25 years, and she wrote a very compelling piece on the attitude of Donald Trump called "We're America, Bitch: The Systematic Ideology of Donald J. Trump" on page 22. Definitely a good read. Lorraine has her Latino empowerment page and channel page 20. Eddie Ortiz wrote a piece for that, The Origins and Repercussions of Trump's Zero Tolerance Policy. And Lorraine wrote a very passionate piece about the young man who died in the Bronx, Junior Guzman Felix. What happened to him is just a tragedy. I know y'all all, I'm not even going to go over all that. Y'all all seen the video. Y'all all heard the story. That was just a tragedy. And they caught I think 8 or 9 of the guys.
They caught, yeah.
Everybody watched this. And then they shut down. See, now this is what we talk about in communities. This is what I wish we did more of in Mount Vernon. That deli owner, bodega owner, that boy had been going to since he was 5 years old. He ran in there for shelter because it was mistaken identity, and these dudes intended to hurt him bad. The dude in the deli, the bodega, gave him up to the gangbangers when they came in. They dragged him out, hacked him up with a bunch knives and machetes and everything. Then they got in the car and drove off. The dude went back in there for help, and the bodega owner shoot him away again. He made it across the street, fell into some construction scaffolding or something, and then made it 2 blocks to the hospital. While people on the street you can watch this because people are.
Was that you not?
No, people are actually videotaping him, and people are actually saying, "Yeah, run down the block, the hospital's right there." But nobody's helping this young dude. Real talk. How are we in a society where people are just videotaping everything but not helping? But anyway, the store itself, since they did that, welcome Dr. Bob and the place to be. And, I posted the picture of our guest today, and the number one thing that I heard from everybody is, "Oh, damn, I thought that was David Dinkins." I can show you the comments. That's what everybody.
People think you David Dinkins, man.
You got David Dinkins on the show? So welcome, Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob Baskerville just walked in the place to be. And our special guest,
yes,
as we have been talking about the last couple of weeks, is none other than the former Mount Vernon Police Commissioner, Clyde Isley. And I want to give you an official Black Westchester round of applause.
There you go.
Thank
you. Yeah. So I was just saying, one thing I was saying, and I wanted to say it while you're here again and while Bob's here, your mics are on. I was watching an episode of, your mic's on, just pull it up to you. I was watching this clip of Trevor Noah on the Oprah Live at the Apollo from February 27th. And we were talking about how Mount Vernon politics, and even on the national level, how people go from their character changes depending on who's in power. You know what I'm saying? And his comment was, if your character shifts depending on who's in power, was it really your character to begin with? And I thought that that was the quote of the day for me. I had to write that down to make sure I said that on this show, because we're talking about some people, and I specifically, all 3 of us have contribute somewhat to the Richard Thomas campaign, and were around him as he was a city councilman, and his character of going after Mayor Davis on certain things, only to do the same things. You know what I'm saying? These things were wrong when Davis did them, but now you're in office. So if your character shift now that you're in office, was that really your character to begin with? That's I just want to put that out there.
Amen.
So you definitely had you come by today. Everybody's been talking about what's going on with the Mount Vernon Police Department. Damon has been one of the number one critics of some of the things that we did an investigative report on Joe Spezio, who was a major campaign donor, who was appointed the deputy police commissioner, and is somewhat at times giving unlawful orders to members of the Mount Vernon Police Department, of which they're following. And Damon is always saying, you can refuse an unlawful order if it's unlawful. And, you know, these guys, some of the actions they're going to get in trouble for because they're following orders, but it's still a crime, or they're still violating policies and procedures.
Well, I think most police officers take
pull the mic up to you. Yeah.
Most police officers take the position that if the order comes from a superior officer, then it's legitimate, and I should comply with it. If we had every officer looking at the penal law or any other policy or procedure to determine whether or not what they were about to do was legal or not, we would never have police service in the city of Mount Vernon. So I think most officers take the position that when they're told to do whatever by a superior officer, they follow through, as they should.
Okay. Now, you've obviously been paying attention to what's going on, what's been reported in the news. I'm sure you hear certain things on your own because you still probably have connections to the department. One of the things we talk about in the paper is the illegitimacy of the appointment of Joe Spezio. Robert Kelly says in his testimony that the mayor told him I'm going to appoint him as deputy police commissioner, honorary deputy police commissioner, and Kelly says that the charter does not give the mayor the right to appoint the deputy police commissioner. That task is given to the police commissioner.
That's correct.
Right. So he's saying that even Mayor Thomas's appointment of him is invalid and illegal. I mean, well, I don't know if it's illegal, but definitely invalid. Like, he doesn't have the authority to do that.
Well, he's the chief executive of the city.
Right.
And the charter gives him very extensive powers to be able to manage the city.
Right.
And I think it's understood that commissioners and deputy commissioners in all departments in the city administration are appointed by the mayor himself.
Okay.
Because he's putting his administrative team together, so therefore he's looking for people who have similar thoughts and different similar approaches to whatever issue the mayor deems as important. So to say simply that it was a violation of the city charter because the mayor appointed the deputy commissioner as opposed to the commissioner is just a play on words as far as I'm concerned. I think there should be some collaboration between the commissioner and the mayor, but I think ultimately the decision falls with the chief executive.
Okay. Now, the next thing, I just wanted to say the next thing in the article, the next thing Kelly said was then the mayor told him to give him, he gave him an honorary badge. Told him to give him an official badge and identification that did not have the wording honorary on it. And when he was filling out the paperwork for ID, he showed his Florida driver's license. And according to former Commissioner Kelly, you have to be a New York State resident to be a sworn-in law enforcement in New York State.
That's correct.
Okay, so he was saying he refused to endorse his application because he had a Florida. He was a resident of Florida. He's not a resident. He has a Florida ID.
Right. And I think all things that we're talking about ultimately led to Commissioner Kelly resigning.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, Kelly is a man of.
Make sure you pull. Like, I just want you. I want everybody to hear what you're saying.
A little bit?
I did. That's what I was
Commissioner Kelly is a man of extreme integrity, and I believe that when he was confronted with a situation of empowering Commissioner Spezio to act in a position he should not have been appointed to, I think that was, in my opinion, his final straw, and he walked away.
Right. I saw Bob had a question real quick.
Oh.
You
so I have a comment. And firstly, in reflecting on what the responsibilities of a law enforcement officer are, we need to take into account the troubling parallels that we now see on the contemporary scene, and that time period when which the principle that law enforcement officers and military officers are not obligated to obey unlawful commands. And the real recognition that law enforcement has to remain true to the law and not to their commanders comes in the aftermath of World War II. During the Nuremberg trials, when German officers are prosecuted for having obeyed what they thought to be lawful commands, essentially to execute people, and in this case, millions of people. Now, this is important because today, here in the United States and across the globe, we are now confronted with the possibility of a resurgence of fascism, the hallmark of which is the belief that those who have been designated law enforcement officers are the law unto themselves and can do whatever they want. That is not the case. No law enforcement officer can be legally exempted from prosecution because they contend that they were given a command from their superior. Because your superior gives you a command, tell you to shoot someone, and it's unlawful, there's a possibility you will be prosecuted for the crime of murder. And I think everyone needs to bear that in mind. This is, I strongly contest the idea that you should follow your command, any command that's given to you. And we, perhaps law enforcement officers, need to get out of the habit of assuming that the orders that are given by their commanders are in fact lawful. I think one example of this that we have from the Mayor Thomas's administration is the dispatching of Mount Vernon police officers by their superiors to investigate Councilman Andre Wallace by going down to the New York State Department of Labor and asking them for the New York State Department of Labor for information. You misuse it.
Wow, damn.
That's a misuse of the police powers, and it unnecessarily politicizes our police departments and raises the specter that we will have a serious abuse of power. And so, I want to make clear, at least that's my position. And if I should hear, I will argue that in every public forum.
Yo, real quick. So while y'all can't see, if you're looking at the screen, there was a whole bunch of thumbs up and thing. The people were pushing the button agreeing with you. We have Westchester County Legislator Christopher Johnson from Yonkers on, Joanne Capadani, Glenn R. Butler, and Yasmin Hurston, and Brother Lat George and Kevin Bunch, all tuned in right now. I just wondered if you wanted to speak to anything he just said.
Yeah, I would. I would like to respond to what he said. I agree with some of what he says. I think that once you are a military officer or a police officer, you deal with situations that come upon you instantaneously. And can you imagine a society where our police departments would ask complainants or people in need of emergency care or emergency action on the part of the police department to pause for a moment while they peruse their rules and procedure to make sure what they're being asked to do.
Wait, let me pull out the book.
To that point, I disagree. I think that there are many outside agencies that can review actions taken by our police and make the necessary call as to whether or not prosecution or exoneration is appropriate in those situations. And I think that when you look at the number of contacts between the police and society at large, you're talking about a small percentile of officers who may be subject to additional prosecution. And we're not talking about a preponderance of all officers. We're talking about a small percentile.
Right. I don't think we're talking about the whole police department either.
Actually, no.
Right. No. I'm with
like everything. We don't broad brush or host everything.
There's a level. There's a level. Even though they think that, I don't understand. Law enforcement officers have a when you criticize one, for some reason in their mindset that they think you're criticizing all of them. And I go back to what Malcolm said. If you throw a rock in a bunch of dogs, the only one that's going to holler is the one who got hit. So why do you think I'm talking about you unless you did something wrong? But to say that, we're talking about specific incidences and understanding if the order is coming. Like, I could never, like, I have a problem. I have a problem even watching something from Commissioner Prime because he's never been a correction officer. He's never been in law enforcement. You understand? So when you have someone that bought their position into a police department and allegedly is giving orders that is enriching himself, because when some of these businesses, right, when they get shook down and they want to get changed carton companies, right, you go to the police. How do you go to the police when the carton company they trying to shake you down to go to is owned by the deputy police commissioner.
That's true. And I think the AG, the Attorney General for the state of New York, has made it very clear that not only is his office, but other governmental agencies are concerned with the fact that Mount Vernon Police Department is being quietly led by what he called, and I quote the Attorney General, a garbage man. I find it hard to believe.
Here's a question for you on what we were talking about. It said, who do officers go to if they didn't want to follow a unlawful order? Who would they go to?
They would go to their unions.
Okay, that's what he said. Who?
Yeah,
the union?
they would go to their unions. But I think that any good union president would question first the issue at hand to see whether or not it is or is not unlawful, but be cautious about entertaining complaints on the part of officers who go about doing their daily duty and are concerned whether or not what they're doing is legal or not. I think that when officers are released from the police academy, they're well trained, they're well versed in the laws they're supposed to enforce. And I think when we raise issues that may require outside scrutiny, we're talking about unusual events.
Well, that's what I mean. And we're not talking about the average.
Right. No, we're not talking about the average, the average work of a police officer. We're talking about unusual activity.
Right.
For instance, we're talking about the police, lieutenants,
right,
police officers,
right, under the supervision of a lieutenant of patrol.
Right.
Not just a patrol officer, but a lieutenant of patrol.
Keeping out the owners of.
Well, let's deal with that first. Let's deal with that first.
Okay.
Here we have a lieutenant of patrol.
Who's wait. Before you get into that, for people don't know, give them your background. Give them your police background, where you came from before being a commissioner. I think the listeners need to know. So
who's talking?
Who's talking?
Oh, okay.
And for y'all, know that is not David Dinkins.
Exactly.
I said that to them when I was running for city council. People would come up to me and say, "Are you David Dinkins?" I said, "No, my name is Clyde Isley." And when you go to the polling booth, don't look for David Dinkins. Look for Clyde Isley. But let's get back to the point.
Your experience, who you are.
Right. I was just thinking about it for a moment. I'm a retired detective sergeant from the City of New York Police Department. I served for 23 years. My last command was the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and it was a unit that was set aside to review complaints that originated from the community and pertained specifically to inappropriate acts on the part of police officers. After many years of being a member of the department, it was a eye-opening experience for me. Upon my retirement, I was approached by Mayor Blackwood, and he asked me to become his police commissioner, and I was thrilled at that opportunity. I served for 5 years in that position, leaving to become Dean of Administration and Finance at Hostos Community College, where I stayed for another 6 or 7 years, and then moved on to become Deputy Commissioner of Administration and Finance at the Westchester County Department of Corrections, a position I retired from in 2010.
Okay.
So he knows what he's talking about, y'all.
Extensive law enforcement experience in the field, as well as extensive administrative experience.
Exactly.
That's a rare combination.
So you were talking about the lieutenant and
let's back to the lieutenant. Generally, a patrol force is made up of police officers who are closely supervised by a sergeant of patrol who reports directly to a lieutenant of patrol. And generally, a lieutenant is a squad commander. So he's the person that any patrol officer or any sergeant on patrol turns to for guidance. When I was told by reliable sources that break-in at the tennis center, and I call it a break-in, at the tennis center was supervised by a lieutenant of patrol and a number of police officers, I was concerned. And my biggest question, or my frustration was, what authority did they have to break into a vendor's private property? I mean, if there's a contractual dispute between the vendor and the city, then it's resolved through legal proceeding. And if a vendor loses that lease for whatever reason, then there's an eviction process that should take place. No one, not the police department, not the mayor, or not corporation counsel, in my opinion, has the authority to break into a person's private property, destroy his equipment, and make a public statement the following day by our mayor saying that he ordered this all to happen. I'm amazed.
I do want to add that our constitutional traditions, specifically our Fourth Amendment tradition, which is hallowed, prohibits the unlawful search and seizure of anyone's property, and for without due process and without a proper tribunal, and for the mayor to simply short circuit the processes that are laid out very clearly in the charter, and decide unilaterally to essentially serve as a judge and a jury that this property on L'Aquila has violated the contract and there can't be any kind of reconciliation, is in fact committed a very grievous violation.
Or no appeal on the part of the leasee. No
Right.
appeal at all. I believe that the Westchester County District Attorney Office is looking very closely to this whole event. And I hope, based on my experience in law enforcement, they reach the same conclusions that I have, and look into the police department to see what motivated them to take that type of approach to that whole event. The mayor has made it very clear that he was acting on the advice and counsel of his corporation counsel. If that's the case, then why didn't they have a warrant or an eviction notice or whatever legal document that was required for them to take that kind of approach to the lessee's property?
And then the next day or the day after, they came and literally evicted the tenants out the property again. And they asked, and there was a Facebook Live video, so this is not hearsay. We all watched it, and it's still on Facebook. You can watch it yourself. One particular officer, he asked him, do you have some kind of paper that I need to see? I mean, he said, you don't need to see nothing. I'm telling you, you need to get out. That's all you need to know.
Right.
Like that, you know,
Like
I had
a
a problem with
military
that.
state.
Yeah, I had a problem with that.
Exactly.
And we
I have
called,
a problem with that
we
too.
called that out on in the paper. You know?
And this is part of a larger pattern that the Thomas administration continues to exhibit that began within months of Mayor Thomas taking office, when they pulled a similar kind of stunt with OK Freddy's and with Mega Beverage.
Right.
Questions were raised then about whether they have followed the procedures that are set forth in the charter, and the investigations that we did led us to conclude no, they had not. And indeed, at least in the case of Mega Beverage, I think the city's what is it? How many millions of dollars?
It's a $5 million lawsuit.
$5 million lawsuit.
So they lost $1 million Budweiser contract because over the course of 6 or 8 weeks they had been shut down 6 times. Even after a judge ordered the chains to come off. In both situations, the police came in with the building with a whole crew. He had everybody with him, and OK Freddy. I was there right after that one. They were told they had 30 minutes to get out. Nope, nothing had. And then they were referred to me, and I told them, I didn't know the guy at the time. I was like, if I look into this, I'm taking it wherever it goes. If you,
Right.
He opened up all his books. He showed me everything. I looked. He had not one violation from the fire department, the building department, the health department, the liquor, the state liquor. There was no violation before the locking down. A few building department violations were manufactured after the fact. But there was nothing before. And then the corporation counsel walked in there and ripped his liquor license off the wall and took it. Like, the liquor authority is the only person that can do that.
Let me tell you something.
What I believe.
Oh, go ahead. Let me say something. Now, the corporation counsel, I believe in straight karma, right? And some people going to get mad when I say this. But you can't have cancer and walk around and treat people so dirty and think that God ain't going to come back and do something to you. I'm being straight honest, because the way people are being treated in this city, it's like less than dogs, man. It's like less than dogs. And for him to have cancer, he should know better not to treat people like that, because it will come back to him. I ain't threatening him. I'm just saying how God works. It will come back to him if it ain't coming back now.
Well, I think it is. I think the Attorney General's investigation hasn't been concluded.
Exactly.
I think that there are other investigations that might be ongoing that we're unaware of, and they all seem to be focusing on the Thomas administration. It's unfortunate, but I mean, this is what we're saddled with. I think a lot happens in the city because I think the residents are not informed. When I went door to door throughout the city of Mount Vernon, talking to people about the responsibilities of a city councilman or the mere fact that there is a city council, the majority of the people that I spoke to were unaware of city government. They had no idea, first of all, what city council is, where it's located, what its duties are.
Exactly.
They are only informed by word of mouth. Very few of them, when you check with the Journal News as to the number of subscriptions that are being brought or left on doorsteps throughout the city of Mount Vernon, are very few. So if they're not being made aware through the Journal News, and we don't have a radio station equivalent to where I am today, then how are our residents of the city being informed? Is it through the mayor's weekly report card? I question that because it's his report card, and I
Right.
would certainly not report anything derogatory about myself on my own report card.
Exactly.
Right. I think that's why we received a lot of flack when we came into existence, because even the prior administration, you know, he didn't have social media and everything coming at him for years. He didn't have someone in the city reporting this stuff and videotaping city council meetings so that everybody could see and reporting the facts. And you know, and Mayor Thomas it's only gotten bigger since, you know, social media and the whole network. We're on Facebook Live, we're on Instagram Live, we're on Periscope Live. You know what I mean? Through all the social media outlets, they didn't have this before, and you know, a lot of people think it comes off as like we hate the guy or that we didn't get something from the guy. That's why we're that's why we're saying
I don't
these
see
things.
that. I don't see
Yeah.
that.
But
at
that's the
all.
news spin. I mean, that's
Right.
that's his fake news spin. That we want jobs and things like that. Listen, it's just amazing because they want to spend that. But the truth is the truth at the end of the day, and we will survive all the Trump administration spin that come out of City Hall because it's just the truth, and I think we are blessed to give a service, to give a newspaper for free to the black community, because outside of the county press they really didn't, we don't have anything else but the county press, and God bless the county press for doing what they have done for all the time that they've done it. But to give, you say that they don't have subscriptions. A lot of people can't afford subscriptions. You're dealing with a city of Mount Vernon that the average income is around $40,000 when you're talking about, and then there's an influx of people that are on social services, and some people are really not taking the $1 or $2 to buy a paper because they got to feed kids. I mean, it's the reality is real, but we want to give a service to give them a free paper to sit down and read what's going on, not only in their city, but other cities. The main thing is informing the people. And even if you're on Section 8, everybody got a cell phone. So regardless of the fact, everybody got a smartphone, and most people got Facebook.
Right.
So that's, I think that's what's changing, not just locally, but even on the national level, of getting information to the people and having people make a little more smarter decisions about the political process in their city.
That's why I was excited when you guys invited me to come on the show. Because
We invited you. We invited you a long time.
We invited you. We invited you when you were running for city council too. and let me say for the
there's a
record,
time for everything.
let me just say for the record, I wrote an article that I got a lot of flack about, and I believed you should have been one of our new city councilmen.
Exactly.
Let me speak to that. AJ, let me speak to that. I believe. Well, I know for a fact that that whole endeavor of running for city council was pretty much the spur of the moment. In the late June, early July, the Democratic City Chair and other members of the Democratic Party approached me about considering running for City Council. And this was after Reverend Troy DeCohen had backed out for personal reasons. I hadn't been involved in politics in the city of Mount Vernon for over 25 years, being at the college campus and then up at the Department of Corrections after I left Mount Vernon during the Blackwood administration. So other than being a Democrat, I wasn't a district leader and I didn't actively participate in the party. So I thought about all my concerns and what I'd seen, how I'd seen the city get to the point that it's at now, and said to myself, what can I do to make a difference? And lo and behold, now the party's asking me to run for city councilman, a venue that would give me a voice in how city government is administered. Worked very hard over that 60, 90-day period to be elected, lost by less than 200 votes. So I said to myself, dear Lord, why did you make me work this hard to lose? And spoke to a lot of people about it, and I came away with the opinion that it was merely an introduction, a reintroduction to the politics of the city of Mount Vernon. So it became of value to me, and that's why I sit before you today, because I still have my concerns about our great city. I still think that it can be saved. I think that the biggest thing that we must learn is that the election of public officials is not a popularity contest.
Exactly.
It's who is best qualified for the position. And I think that the last 3 or 4 administrations have failed to take that into consideration when we voted in the people that we've had. And I go back to Mayor Davis, Mayor Young, and our current mayor. If you look at their track records overall, for example, Memorial Field. When I was police commissioner back in the mid-90s, myself and Controller Peter Priscilla started that project along with Mayor Blackwood. We saw Memorial Field in need of renovation. So that project began then in the mid-90s. We're now in 2018.
Yes, sir.
And Memorial Field has not been completed yet. From my perspective, and my perspective only, it's the problem we have with Memorial Field. It became a personality issue. Everybody wants their own little design as to what Memorial Field should look like. We should simply set the specs, how many lanes, where the equipment is going to be stored, will there be offices, will there be, how many stands we should have, how many seats there should be. If the number of seats that number of lanes that we have now is not what's minimally sufficient, then we should move the track itself. Why should we tear down the tennis center? So it's a personality issue. I think it should be looked at from afar, and that project can be very easily finished.
Do you think County Exec George Lattimore had requested that the county take over? They're going to go with the original plans that they agreed upon, that the money was agreed upon. They have requested the $700,000 that's remaining back to the county, and official accounting on, I think it was $3.5 million that they gave up front. Do you think it would be a good idea for the county to take over the project? Get rid of all the politics, the city politics. Finish the field the way it was originally designed, that it was agreed upon, and then give it back to the city for management, just to get the job done? Or do you think
as a resident, a simple resident, one who is not privy to all of the
Right.
issues that are currently on the table and being discussed by the city of Mount Vernon and the county of Westchester, I would say yes, because it's been much too long between the beginning of the project and that unseemingly never ending of it. But if I personally was more involved in it, I would want to take a closer look at what it is that we are agreeing to in our collaborating with the county government. I learned recently that the one thing that's not going to be transferred is the title to Memorial Field.
Yes.
That's not going to be transferred to the county.
Right,
so
right.
that in itself
Right.
is excellent.
Right.
Because I can't see a stadium that was originally built for the soldiers returning from war for the city of Mount Vernon being willy-nilly turned over to the county,
Right.
if it included the title as well.
No, I've spoken with the county, specifically Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, and I spoke briefly with Mr. Latimer, the county exec. They both assured me that and I've heard this from the council as well, that the language is that the restoration of the field will be transferred to the county, and then the keys will be turned back over to the city to manage, operate, or whatever.
Yeah, but
that there's
the question, AJ, is why? Why are we turning it over to the county?
Because nothing's getting done.
Well, they put up they have a lot of money at stake and a vested interest in it being built, and they don't want to throw more money. The 3.1 million that was already given up front.
3.5.
It's 3.1. I got that. I
3.1?
get 3.1. And what was given up front, they still don't have an accounting of where all that money went. One, two. What they can find out, there's a missing $700,000 that they want back because there's no or whatever.
Right.
So before they put up the other 6.9 or whatever it is, they will not put that up, and there's no official plan. There's no, they're not going to put more money on top of bad. You know what I'm saying?
So in so many words, you're telling me that their reluctance is the current administration that we have in place.
And
not just the current, but I mean, it went on since the young administration.
No, I agree.
Right.
But that's over and done with.
Right. But the current administration, right.
So we can only hold the current administration responsible.
Exactly.
Astorino, the former administration in the county, his stance was what they said they wanted done, because Davis actually gave his plans, and Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins confirmed this for me. They actually gave new plans, Davis, and Astorino approved it. But his problem was, in addition to what the county had agreed upon, it was going to cost an additional $5 million. And all Astorino's people wanted to know is, where are you going to get the extra $5 million from? And once you show us that, then we'll give you this. But you have to show us where you're going to get. We're not going to give you the money and you're still $5 million short.
Right. How you going to leverage all along?
Right.
Exactly.
So that was his position. The current situation is they're not giving money to because of this administration. And Pretlow got upward to $5 million that he has pulled back. And what they're in negotiation now, from what I understand, is for that money to be turned over to the county, for the county to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not being released to the city of Mount Vernon under this administration.
Right.
Those are the little updates that I've gotten. So,
I think it's embarrassing, right?
Wait. County Legislator Johnson agrees that is the clause that they put in. It's just for the restoration. He's commenting now. He's listening.
Right. I think it's embarrassing as a black city, right? We start a project, and I've said this before. They have built a new Shea Stadium. They have built a new Yankee Stadium, and they built a damn bridge. and tore down the old bridge. I just went over the bridge, and the other tab, the old one is gone, right?
I did that.
We still can't get a feel.
I was on the bridge.
Like, come on, really?
I was going over the bridge with Bob.
Yeah,
he had to go pick up his son in Jersey, and I was taking pictures, and I posted on Facebook.
Right.
I made a bet in 2014. Someone bet me that the bridge would be done before Memorial Field. Hell no. I'm representing my city. No, we going to have it. I'm stuck up for my city. I'll put my money where my mouth is. Yeah, I guess I got to pay up on that now.
Yes, you do. Right. Like I said earlier, it's all about personality. I think that if we, the city, decided that we wanted a generalized Memorial Field, one that caters to all the needs of the community at large, we could have had this Memorial Field issue resolved long before this.
Absolutely, if it wasn't the debate between different politics.
Exactly.
County Legislator Lyndon Williams wanted to let us know he's listening, he's watching, and when you was asking why the county, he said because it's the county money that's being used. that was his answer. So that was his answer to your question. So, which is what I said. You can't argue it.
No.
When it's coming out your pocket, you want to know.
Right,
and if I got to do it myself, then make sure it gets done, then give it to you.
It should be in order.
Right.
Done.
Lyndon and Chris is watching. I can't remember what type of there's a name for the money that that they use for projects.
A legacy.
I think it's the legacy fund. I think it's
Yeah.
the legacy. If I'm not sure if one of y'all still listening,
You can type it in,
please
right.
type it in. But I remember talking to the legislators in all the other cities that got this fund. Their projects is done.
Right.
Right? Their projects is done. I mean, we have to, and I think we got to take responsibility for it, and the people of Mount Vernon have to take responsibility for it because we elected these people in office to do a job, and we need to hold them more accountable to that job. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the people.
Okay, good.
Go ahead.
Let me cut you off. I want to go back into the police, because your experience is more with the police department. And we talked offline about the actions of the tennis bubble. You had some comments of what was done wrong.
I think you said the lieutenant.
Yeah, lieutenant. But you said you were talking offline. You were talking about some of the things that were done wrong, and I would like you to talk more in detail about that.
Well, I said to you that I'd like to know from the city what was their legal position to break into the lessee's property. What motivated was simply the ending of a contract, which they had every right to do. But if a contract is ended, then that means there was no negotiations that was ongoing. Everything had come to a stalemate. And from the lessee's position, he said over and over again that he's received communication from the city. He's received faxes from the city that spoke to different issues that hadn't been resolved. And he was under the impression those negotiations were ongoing. For them to suddenly appear and destroy his property under supervision of the police department just raises a number of questions. And I'd like to know who outside the mayor saw the need to send the police to that facility to do what they've done. And I believe that the district attorney's office will find the answer to all of that. We just have to be patient.
Go ahead, Bob.
In the event that have police officers ever been used for eviction processes? If we call this loosely an eviction, is it customary for police to be
We have a
involved?
marshal service in the city of Mount Vernon,
Mhm.
and we have a housing department in the city of Mount Vernon. One would think that if you terminate the lease, then you should go to a housing court and get an eviction notice,
Right.
and serve that on the property owner or the leasee, and they have to evict based on the court's decision after reviewing all the information that was brought to them. No one has said publicly that there was an eviction order, or there was an order issued by some court that says that the city had a right to go back and retain possession of that property, other than the contract being terminated, which the city had the right to do.
Right.
And I did talk to our marshal, Mount Vernon City Marshal, Sharifa Khan, and she said she would have to produce some sort of paper. Even coming in with the marshals, they couldn't just do that. They would have to give the owners a copy. You know what I'm saying? They'd have to show them something. They
Just
can't
like
just
when-
walk in and tell you get out.
Right.
They
just
would,
like,
they, you know.
just like AJ, if they came to serve a search warrant on your residence or your
Right.
commercial place, they have to present you with the search warrant signed by
Judge?
the court,
Oh yeah.
saying that this is what they are entitled to do. So where's the warrant? Is
Right.
there a warrant? Was there a warrant?
Right.
AJ, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Because I maybe I'm just misremembering stuff and want to turn this into more sensationalistic episode than it really was. But when the owner of Keela asked one of the officers
Yeah, I was just talking about that. Go ahead, say it.
to produce the
Yes.
They had
Was-
no paperwork to produce.
they had no paperwork, but
None.
He said you don't need. He said, "Do you have a paper for me? Do you have something for me? See, you don't need to see nothing. All you need to know is that I said get out or something." I'm paraphrasing, but you can get the exact words off the video that's on YouTube. I mean on Facebook.
Stand back was the command. Stand back.
Yeah. So
Right.
but
There's two. Lyndon Williams said Mount Vernon was approved in 2009. It was the only legacy project not completed. Like I thought, there was no approval to change the original plans. The city acted unilaterally. And Atif says, nope. I have asked the mayor on a radio program, and he's yet to ask why he didn't go through the courts.
right, yeah, and he had that conversation with me offline as well. Shout out to everybody who's tuning in. I said both the county legislators are in, Nicole Page, Montika Jones, Detective Montika Jones.
Oh,
from
she's
Love
my
One
wife
Police
is
Department.
watching. Hello. I'm being good.
Simone Combs. Hip hop artist Biz Markie.
Biz Marquis back. Another Sunday.
Yeah.
Biz, what's up, baby? What's happening?
Tracy Gardner. Donna Jackson. If I missed your name, I'm sorry. Anybody else? Thank you for tuning in. Marcus Aguilar. I think that's how. Maurice, I'm sorry, Aguilar. I think I pronounced your name right. Dawn C. Wright has said hi to both of us, Damon and AJ.
Hey, sis, how you doing?
And we can't forget a friend of the show, Monique James. She said this is my favorite team, straight up.
Hey, Monique, what's happening?
Hey, Monique, what's
and
up?
she's had a couple of comments about what's going on as well. So, go ahead, Damon. I'll let you take over.
Hey, Commissioner, where do you see all this going, in your professional opinion?
I would hope by the time the elections take place in November that the issues here in the city of Mount Vernon have been resolved one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, based on my experience, I believe that November, maybe the end of the year at the latest, would probably be a turning point for the city if things go the way they seem to be going.
I mean, the district attorney has been very quiet, and a lot of people on the street are wondering, Scarpino's from Mount Vernon, and even with the issue with Andre Wallace being assaulted, and that going nowhere, and other issues that have come across questionable actions and nothing from the DA's office. There are people really questioning what's the intent of the DA when it comes to Mount Vernon.
Well, the wheels of justice move slowly, and I believe that the Westchester County Department, Westchester County DA's office, is aware of what politically and criminally is taking place in the city of Mount Vernon, and I think that they're being very careful and very thorough on how they approach the issues that lie on their desk. I mean, there was a major arrest of gang members 3 months ago, where the district attorney and I believe the FBI came in and made arrests of gang members in the city of Mount Vernon who were dealing drugs openly.
And the same thing in Yonkers too.
Right.
Yeah, but that was a false. Only 8 out of the 25, only 8 went to county court. Only 8 of them went to county court.
Yeah, but if
the rest of them kicked back misdemeanors, they already had, and they already. What I don't like is when they do these kind of sweeps in black communities, especially black communities, and they pick up people that already have records on BS charges. So by the time it looks good for the press because they got their faces out, right? But when the nuts and bolts come to actually press the charges, they don't have anything. So most of the time, because they have records, or maybe someone's already on parole or probation or whatever,
they get violated.
They have to plea bargain to something lesser.
So, but if I'd like to jump in,
yeah,
those arrests were the results of an indictment that was handed down by a grand jury, and for a grand jury to indict you, they have to have evidence presented to them by the prosecutor's office.
Allegedly.
No.
we know the old saying. The DA can indict a ham sandwich if they want to.
Yes. But I would not say that about our current DA. I think he's above board. He's a straight shooter. I think that the mere fact that those individuals were indicted after evidence was presented to a grand jury, and I believe that case is ongoing. And you said earlier on, well, some of them out already. Well, during the prosecution itself, the defense has a right to enter into a plea agreement. And we shouldn't exclude the fact that some of those individuals may have plea bargained and offered information that was beneficial to the department, or to the district attorney's office. So we can't exclude that issue. And for you to be awarded with a plea bargain, reduction in sentence, means that the information that you shared with the district attorney was helpful. And if it's helpful, then that expands the scope of their ongoing investigation.
Well, and that's one side of it, and the other side is that they don't have enough evidence, and they offer a plea, and the guy takes the plea because he don't want to go to trial on the BS because he don't want to take the charges. You know, listen, I've been up there. I listen to the stories. I've been up there 28 years. I hear the stories, dude. I had to take it. I had no choice but to take it. You know, because of the fact of they're going to get convicted on their record more than anything else because of who they are. Only thing I'm saying is that we have to be more accountable even in how we look at public safety, and when they just go and want to do something to say that they're doing something, but the reality is they're not. You know, they're right back in the street. So the city never gets time to heal because nobody wants to go to trial. Under Janet DeFiore, she never wanted to go to trial. She just plea bargained out. You know, I know defense attorneys. They said, you know what, how I get a deal? I say, let's go to trial. And they did it because sometimes they don't want to go to trial. But the whole thing is we have to look at these things and say, look, we need more. We need a better criminal justice system because the city can't rest because the guys that they're claiming they're doing it for just a spur of the moment, but they're back on the street the next day. But News 12 don't come out and say, well, you arrested 25, right? How many of them went to county court? News 12 don't come back and talk about that. News 12 just comes back and talk about the 25 arrests. And this is not knocking the police. This is not knocking the DA's office. This is just saying in black communities, this is the modus operandi when we look at fighting crime. But really, the communities never get real time to heal.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but you got to take into consideration if you go back to the beginning of the Davis administration and you project forward to the Thomas administration, you could not count the number of police commissioners that led the Mount Vernon Police Department on two hands. There were more than 15 commissioners during that time period. So for a police department to develop a strategy on how it intends to combat crime within its community, you have to have stable leadership.
Exactly.
If you don't have stable leadership, then the department is pretty much rudderless. And we're at a point now where we're being hypothetically led by a garbage man.
Right. And
how much worse can it be?
And the news was careful to point out the Mount Vernon Police Department was without a commissioner from 2016 to 2018. We had acting commissioners. And to answer your question you asked earlier, one of the listeners wrote something, and I remember too. The police said they were instructed by an email from Picari for the police officers. That's why they came. They were instructed from an email from Picari per the police officer on the field when taking it down. And this is what he says, and he's on video saying that. So that's why they were there. That's the order they got from Picari.
Right. If you remember
the Corporation Counsel, for people that don't know who I'm talking about.
Exactly. If you remember the news release at the Memorial Field the following day, the mayor said publicly that he acted on advice and counsel from the Corp Counsel's office. So, the mayor has made it very clear that he was advised that he was empowered to do what they did.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing about that? So let me give you a scenario that I know for sure. The OK Freddy situation. When he shut down OK Freddy, the mayor, and had the police come and everything, it was a Sunday. He called the acting building commissioner at her home when she was on her way to a barbecue, and she was ordered to City Hall. When she got to City Hall, they were telling her to meet at the thing. Per the conversations of her and the other people around, once she got there, she was given paperwork to read at the press conference. Once she read it, then the mayor said, so because the building commissioner said it, that's why we did it. He gave her the words to say, though. I just want to be clear, like, you know what I'm saying? That's
I can understand that.
I mean,
and
that's how it allegedly played out, according to those people that,
Right. I mean,
we
have a president in the United
absolutely
States who does the same thing.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I said we talk about often the parallel of the national administration
to the local.
and the local, and it's such
Mind-boggling.
yes.
During your tenure as commissioner, was it ever the case that a corporation counsel referred criminal charges to you that you were then to have Mount Vernon police officers?
Never. The charter specifically says that the commissioner reports directly to the mayor and no one else.
Okay,
So the order would have to come from the mayor, and if there was an issue with the legality of the order, the mayor and I had a understanding where we would debate those issues, and we would probably ask corporation counsel to come in and mediate between the two of us.
if there was any discrepancy about
Right.
the nature of
Legality
the
of
charges,
the order.
yes, and yes, the
Mhm.
legality of the order. But it's very highly unusual. This sounds like it's almost unprecedented.
Right, and I'm sure the district attorney's office will come to some resolution about this whole event. And,
Yeah.
and I'd like to go back to what Damon said. Yes, they do come back to the street. And the bail is simply meant for you to return to the court on the adjourned date. It's not meant to incarcerate you or make it difficult for you to continue your freedom. The problem with that is that when law enforcement arrests individuals for criminal activity and they return to the street, then they're in a position to intimidate witnesses. And witnesses are important to the prosecution of any case at any level. And if they're able to reach out and intimidate, then it's hard to bring those people to ultimate justice. And that's the issue we have to try and overcome. The law needs to be a little bit more lenient as to the type of protections it affords witnesses, because without witnesses you can't prosecute. Those are the people who bring criminal activity to the attention of the police. But from that point on, they really don't want to be bothered. They will tell you about what's going on, but don't call them to come to court and testify. You get the few that will. You get the few that will, but they're not the preponderance of individuals living in the community.
I got a question. So, one of the discrepancies again with the appointment of Mr. Spezio to the deputy police commissioner, in Low HUD and in several articles, when the mayor was questioned about his deputy police commissioner position, and claims were made, even Low HUD pulled out, is Joe Spezio really running the city? His thing was, shout out to Councilman Andre Wallace, who just said what's up. He said, but he's only an honorary. You know, he gets $1. So first, that's we're gonna go there first. Before we get there, the charter only calls for one of those, and the position was held at the time from former detective Anthony Mitchell. So he couldn't be that.
Right.
But secondly, let's say that's what he is. What is the power? People don't understand this. What is that dollar position, that honorary position? Does that give that person power? What power
Within
does
the
that
police
person?
department?
The police
To
department, yes.
issue orders?
Yes.
To make policy? No.
Okay.
So no, the honorary position is simply someone whose advice and counsel the commissioner can seek when dealing with community-based problems. And that person generally is a representative of the community, a clergy person, or someone else of prominent stature within the community. And that's why they're given that honorary position. So they have the ability to speak directly with the commissioner pertaining to police issues.
So I guess Rich one is someone who could speak to the constituency of Florida orange growers that is so vital to Mount Vernon's economy.
But you know what? I mean, but there's even a problem with that. All right. Technically, according to the charter, Spezio wasn't an honorary police commissioner or a deputy police commissioner. The charter states that you have to have, once you're sworn in, you have to have the seal of the city clerk's office within 15 days.
You have to file a certificate of appointment.
Right. You have to file it within the city clerk's office within 15 days. Spezio's swearing in was in February. He didn't get the seal to almost July.
And that was only because we made a big deal.
And that's only because I blew it up and I foiled and got all his information, and he wasn't even on list. Even from the closing of Freddy's all the way to June, So, and my problem with George Brown, and I told George, well, why did you put the seal on it? It was invalid. Well, he says, well, it's invalid anyway because it's over 15 days from he should have had to been sworn in again, right? But he presented his one from February, and then they sealed the one for February. According to the charter, that means it doesn't mean anything.
Right, it's invalid. But we got to go back to the point that you made a correlation earlier on between the Mount Vernon current administration and the administration of
Trump.
Mr. Trump. He's incarcerating young kids. He's separating folks from each other.
Exactly.
He's negotiated peace
Pull his mic a
treaties
little
with
closer.
an enemy of our
Pull the mic closer.
country.
Yeah, just pull it to you.
Who's
Yeah.
been an enemy for years. The president and our mayor has executive powers that are far-reaching and can be difficult to deal with. And it's designed that way so that they each can get their job done. And unfortunately, we have two candidates or two
Individuals.
two individuals who seem to be expanding the limits of their legal authority.
Exactly.
I got a couple of real quick shout out to Tasha Diaz, Councilwoman Janice Duarte is tuned in. Lyndon Williams was going back to the other thing. He said the law does not allow for a landlord to kick anyone out of their apartment door if they didn't pay rent. There's a court process for eviction. A lawyer, or he said even a first-year law student would know that.
Yeah, but you're talking about Bakari. I mean, dude, you're right, Lyndon. But you're talking about Bakari. They outsource everything out. Like, what is the purpose to have a corporation counsel and a law department when they outsource everything out?
Now, I did look into that, and the answer one answer, and the reason I looked into it because it started when I saw Judge Nichelle Johnson's campaign literature. When I was going through, doing a Meet the Candidates article showing all the candidates, one of the things that was her claim in her literature was that she saved the city of Mount Vernon millions of dollars by litigating most of those things in-house instead of outside counsel. Then I looked into Lauren Razor, who may not have gone to court herself, but her department did most of the cases in-house. And, two competent black African-American women. And now we have a white individual, not from the city, who outsources everything. But they said the corporation counsel doesn't often go, it's his law department. And
Okay.
he's not always, the one that goes to court. And a lot of times they're not the one that go to court. Because I made the claim that he's never going to court. So I just wanted to say this was the answer that I got from people in those circles.
That's foolishness.
The corporation counsel does not normally, his legal department, you know what I'm saying, are the ones that carried it out.
Okay.
It's not always
Right.
the
Right.
consequence.
Well, when has his
But
legal
his
department
but the legal department's not. We're getting all this. I'm still waiting on the fall. I gotta put it through for all the outside counsel that has been used.
And why?
Since this is why and how much they're being paid.
Right.
I haven't gotten an answer to that yet.
Right.
I'm
Well,
in the process of trying to find that out.
Theoretically, you have to take into consideration their caseload and how much demands are placed on the law department by the city agencies themselves, because they seek advice and counsel from corp counsel as well when they're dealing with constituents' issues, whatever those issues may be. So it's easier for the city corp counsel to outsource legal issues to be handled by outside firms. I think if you look closely at our city budget, there is a line there for outside counsel as far as expenditure.
We've way past that already. But
Well,
I mean,
it is there. It is there.
Yeah.
So,
No, I
so
know.
what the corp counsel is doing with outsourcing legal issues is within their guidelines.
Right. Well, the other
I
thing.
do-
The other
I-
thing.
no,
Oh,
go ahead, Bob.
Bob.
Yeah, I do want to add, though, firstly, a pattern of abuse of the discretion to hire outside
That's where I was
counsel
going. Go ahead.
has been uncovered and reported on previously, above all else by Lo Hud, who did a two-part article on this within the past 5 years or so, noting that many of the law firms that were hired had ties to politicians whose campaigns they contributed. And so,
or better yet, the dangerous of Spezio's appointment and being a large campaigner to the mayor, these were people that he had ties to, some of his people that he had being appointed to certain positions and certain commissionerships and corporation council is the allegation.
Right.
Moreover,
That's believable.
one of the principal law firms that the city has outsourced its legal cases to is the firm of Jeffrey Buss, Joe Spezio's personal attorney. And if ever there was a case of conflict of interest, clear conflict of interest, it would seem to be that. Because I personally have always wondered, why is Mr. Buss's firm continuously having municipal law matters referred to it? Is it because they have the expertise, or is it because it's a way of indirectly paying back Joe Spezio?
And he was also the attorney when that councilman Richard Thomas used to try to oust Mayor Davis. Even back then, before he was Spezio's attorney. I also wanted to, and I'm going to be looking into this, and I'm putting it out on the air. A candidate who ran for Yonkers council president and won, Mike Cater. One of the things he told me on the phone and has said on this show was that he is not still representing Joe Spezio. And I'm being told, and I'm looking into this, so I don't have this in front of me, that he may still be taking on cases of Joe Spezio. But during the campaign, he was trying to distance himself, saying he was no longer affiliated with Joe Spezio. But at one of his fundraisers, Joe Spezio was there, and so was Mayor Thomas. So you know what I'm saying? So
that was at the beginning.
No, but
until
I'm saying,
it got hot.
Right, but
and then nobody, and then
Right, but I'm saying now I'm being told, and I'm going to be looking into this as the editor of Black Westchester, if he's currently, because he said he wasn't taking any more new cases, he was just going to finish up the ones that were currently in. But I'm hearing he's still representing him and taking new cases again. So he lied. If case, he lied on the air. And
let me tell you.
I told him if that's the case, I was going to report that.
Well, we'll say it here on the air right now. Listen, Mike, you've been a friend of the show. You came on the show. You denounced Spezio on the show. You came on the show and denounced Spezio. I hope, man, that
I hope so too.
That you're not backstepping and falling for the okie doke and being tied back in with this dude, man, because there is an ongoing investigation. I mean, that's the most dangerous word anybody could ever say is ongoing investigation.
And that's why I'm bringing it up. I'm not making
and
the
Spezio is the gift that keep giving, and he's already a confessed federal informant. You don't even know if he's setting your behind up. He's a confessed federal informant, and that's true. And if Spezio don't like it, sue us, because we will get we got the information. So I mean, for people to still be doing work with this guy, people to still take orders from this guy, you don't know. You don't know. Ongoing investigation. You might walk in the AG's office, and they're going to be like, well, how did you know that? They said Spezio told us. Because he gave you the unlawful order, and you did it. So I just hope, man, people just wake up. It is an ongoing investigation.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that this is the case, but this is what I'm hearing.
I'm saying it.
And I'm hoping that Mike Hader is not still now taking new cases.
I hope he's not either.
But I will be looking into it beyond talking to him specifically. I'm going to do the research. So,
Commissioner.
Yes.
During your tenure, what was the process that your department used in order to vet some of the senior executive
good question
officers who were selected by the mayor to serve in deputy police commission? In other words, can the mayor just appoint anyone, and the department leadership accepts it, or is there some sort of vetting process that you are nevertheless required to do, even if this is the mayor's preference?
Well, I said earlier on that in all practicality, the mayor has the authority to appoint the deputy commissioner of the police department. Even though the charter says that position is filled by the commissioner himself, we got to keep in mind that the commissioner
Serves at
reports
the pleasure.
directly
Right.
to the mayor. So in my case, when my deputy was appointed, it was at the result of my collaboration with the mayor, review of the candidates that were submitted to the mayor's office, and we agreed on that individual, and they were appointed at that particular time. But they were law enforcement folk. They came from the law enforcement community. They were not civilian individuals who were being considered deputy commissioner of the Mount Vernon Police Department.
And from your professional view, how does this look for the city to have someone who's a garbage man?
Running the police department?
Exactly.
Terrible. I mean, the AG made a point of quoting in parentheses, garbage man leaves the police department. So for the Attorney General for the state of New York to highlight the fact that our police department is being theoretically ran by a garbage man, I can't think of anything worse that can be said about our department.
Garbage in, garbage out.
What does that do for the networking? See, because I've said it and I'll say it again. Mount Vernon is one of the most hardest working police officers in Westchester County, and they do not get they never got the respect that they needed to get. An officer with 4 years on the job have more experience than many other these officers in other municipalities, hands down, because they deal with more, they see more.
When it comes to homicides.
Yeah, when it comes to all that, hands down, an officer from Mount Vernon can go in any other police department and be top and be top cop easily.
He make more money and work hard, less.
Right,
and work a little
right.
hard, yeah.
But when you're, and then we also know the reason why the disrespect is because we're black, right? We have the highest percentage of black officers in any police department. So when you deal with something like this and you have something what's going on and having a garbage man, it makes the work to get the respect even harder.
I want to ask you a follow-up question. With what, in your opinion, what does that do with everything, the state of the city, the city government, and the state of Mount Vernon Police Department? What does that do to the morale of the rank and file officers?
I could only imagine the work environment that these officers come to each and every day that they're on duty. They understand, like all of us in this room, the difficulty of being employed by the Mount Vernon Police Department when all folks who live outside of the city look down upon us and talk about us being led. I'm talking about the Mount Vernon Police Department. When I refer to us being led by a garbage man. It makes their job even more difficult, coupled with the fact that we've had such a large turnover of commissioners in the last 10, 15 years. So
the last 2 years, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it makes the job extremely difficult. And the only way that I believe the department will ever get the respect that it well deserves is if we stabilize city government and find ourselves a professional commissioner who can lead the department. And one prime example of that was Commissioner Kelly. I thought he was an outstanding selection on the part of the mayor. Unfortunately, his savior, that as he referred to him, only lasted 3 months. And he had discharged.
Wait. He had just as much faith in Kelly as he had in God.
And Kelly says that in his testimony.
So
you know that, right?
For one, that's just some blasphemous
Wait.
shit right
No,
there.
wait. But he said
hell
that.
is wrong
He said
with you?
that
Who
from
would
the
make that
pulpit.
statement?
He said that from the pulpit at Greater Centennial.
Who would say
You know,
that?
it's on
Right.
video because they
Right.
stream their services.
And last less than 3 months.
Right. So my comment in my editorial was.
So
I hope
then-
he has a little more respect than God. What, you gonna fire God?
That
next?
means that the mayor's faith is easily shaken.
Amen.
Exactly. But we were hard on Kelly at from the beginning.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
From the different rumors that we heard, and he came on the show, and I think after that, I think it was a mutual respect after that.
And to his credit, he hit me 3 times at city council meetings saying, AJ, when are you going to put me on the show?
Right.
Like, I
Right.
didn't have to track him down. Like, I mean, over a course
Good
of
man.
Right.
Good man.
Right. And I
Good
said
man.
at the city council meeting, Kelly was sitting right there. I said, from my discussion with Kelly, he's a policeman.
He is.
And there's no way he's going to let a garbage man tell him what to do. Said it on the minutes and said it loud because I knew what was going to happen. It was no way that relationship was going to work out to the point that Spezia was going to give Kelly orders.
Well, it wasn't giving Kelly orders. Allegedly, he was giving the department orders behind Kelly's back.
Jesus.
You understand?
Right.
From his office in Florida over the phone. You understand what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't even there. And there was things that found out, like the reinstatement of the mayor's brother back to the fire department, who had retired or resigned, whichever one it was. You're right. You know what I'm saying? And there was a process of trying to put him back on the books and then let him retire on workman's comp. What's that? Yeah. So and it was months later. He resigned on January 9th, and Kelly, this was the day before Kelly got fired in April. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there was 3 months he wasn't even physically working. And Picari's orders from the top was to put him back on the record, and he instructed then acting fire commissioner Ernie Richardson, who, whether it was a covering his ass move or whatever, said, how are we having this conversation while the commissioner of public safety, who was over both fire and he then sent the chain of emails to Kelly, which Kelly said this was illegal and immoral. You know what I'm saying? And there's no way he was going to stand for it.
Right.
And the next day he was then fired.
Right.
So it was like there was the Spezio thing, and then that was it. There was the great savior for the department was no longer.
Well, I commended him. He acted as a police professional should have.
Right.
Commissioner, I want to ask a question. So, just to clarify for our audience listeners, firstly, is it illegal, although perhaps not advisable, is it illegal for the mayor to select a garbage professional?
No.
It's not illegal. Okay.
No. The charter doesn't specify specifically what prerequisites one must have to be appointed police commissioner. It doesn't speak to that. It simply says that the chief executive of the city has the right to appoint a police commissioner to serve at his pleasure, period.
But as a law enforcement executive, you think that it's preferable that someone who serves in a senior executive position in the police department should have a policing background of some kind?
I think any clear chief executive of a city would have that approach in mind when they were selecting their police commissioner.
Okay. Now,
and in his defense, even though he didn't pass the bar, he does have a law degree, but he never passed the bar. That's what they keep saying in the articles.
My mother used to say, just because you're educated don't make you smart.
Well, my mother used to say,
some people have said that to me.
my mother used to say something like, and I thought about it this morning, and I didn't never know what it meant. Sometimes you're so smart, you're stupid.
Amen.
And I never knew what that meant, but I'm understanding it now.
I have a follow-up. Now, in the case of Joe Spezio, he simultaneously has a carting license to haul garbage in the city of Mount Vernon. And the investigative report that we did seemed to indicate that many of the procedures that we were required to vet applications for licenses were not properly filled out. Specifically, in our investigative report, we indicate that a FOIL investigation did not find any evidence that fingerprints, matter of fact, the application that we reviewed, it requires that the applicant specify instances where they may have been convicted of criminal violation. I cannot say that Joseph Spezio has been convicted of a criminal violation, although apparently
he was found guilty of at least 2 tribunals.
Yeah, he was found guilty of violating federal labor relations laws, and also Joseph Spezio was personally found guilty of violating Louisiana state contracting laws because he illegally did work under someone else's general contractor's license without their knowledge.
And in addition to that, I just want to add, he is still the prime suspect in an ongoing arson investigation in Greenberg. That should have come up in the fingerprint. I mean, that should have come up.
When we reviewed the charter, we found a provision that says that the Mount Vernon Police Department has to do a review of
The criminal investigation unit, or
Yeah.
the criminal something.
They have to do they have to have the applicant for the license fingerprinted, send those fingerprints to the New York State, whatever it is, or an outside. But we didn't find evidence that the Mount Vernon Police Department made a recommendation as to whether or not Joseph Spezio application for a license should be approved. And our concern is that this was because Joseph Spezio was simultaneously serving as the Deputy Police Commissioner. Do you have any thoughts, insights into a person being both a Deputy Police Commissioner and also a major garbage hauler in the city of Mount Vernon?
Well, I just want to remind you that as mayor, you're the chief executive of the city, and all of the city departments report to you.
Mm-hmm.
So as they go about fulfilling their administrative duties, they are at the direction and control of the chief executive. So it would be very easy for deviations to occur.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, Councilman Wallace said, and let's not forget, Kelly also refused to lock up Councilman Griffin and himself. And once, and they will put on a suspect 1 and suspect 2 on the report, and Kelly said that wasn't proper and put them as persons of interest, and now he's being included in the lawsuit for altering the files or whatever and circumventing the investigation or something like that.
All one has to do is look at city charter, and the charter says that the city hall itself, the building, is supervised and managed by city council. And both Andre Wallace and Marcus Griffin,
And he was the council president at the time.
right,
Yeah.
are sitting council persons and should have access to city hall at any given time.
Right, but he made it sound like they
So if
broke
you
in.
were the police commissioner at the time that this dispute occurred, you would not have directed your officers to Councilman Wallace and Councilman Griffith as
Burglars.
Yeah, as burglars.
No. I mean, as I said, the city hall itself, the building, is managed by a city council. It says it very clearly in the charter that no movement, no change of office, anything can occur within the city hall building without the approval of city council. So one would assume that city council people themselves have access to city hall at any given time.
I just want to give a shout out. We have Mount Vernon City Judge Adrian Armstrong listening.
Judge Armstrong.
And we also have Ken Bright tuning in as well.
Brother Ken. And
I did shout out Denise Cardozo Branch. I've been reading her comments, but I didn't shout her out.
And Sharon Salam.
Oh, yes. Yusef Salam's mom. One of the Central Park 5. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very big advocate. She's definitely on the front lines. More than any men that I know. She out there with the group of moms.
Yeah,
she's
man. She's
out
doing
there.
her thing, man.
Whether there's men in it, she's out there.
Much respect. Much respect to Miss Salam.
For the wrongfully incarcerated, yeah.
Much respect.
So I mean, you know, what could be done at this point for the listeners? You know, because you bring out the problems, you got to find solutions. What could be done to restore the faith of the community, to restore the Mount Vernon Police Department to where it should be? What would have to be if you were brought in? Okay, yeah, better yet.
Yeah, there you go.
Till you're brought in, and you're the new commissioner. What would be some steps you took to get the community's faith back into you and get the house in order, so to speak?
Well, I've always prided myself on being a straightforward, to the point kind of person. So that being the case, first of all, I wouldn't take the job.
Okay. Okay. Don't get no better than that.
So how do we change the mindset of the city of Mount Vernon?
How do you clean up the police department? Yeah.
One thing at a time. I think that, first of all,
Right.
we as a city have to become more involved in city government.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So many of us consider Mount Vernon to be a bedroom community. It's more than that. When you're paying $15,000-$16,000 a year in real estate taxes and school taxes as well, a prudent person would want to know how those funds are being used and whether they're being used efficiently. So therefore, it requires you to be somewhat basically involved in what goes on in city government. I have not found that to be the issue citywide. I've found people to simply be concerned about Monday is go back to work and Friday is home for the weekend and I got to do things with the kids. I'm not concerned about, as I said to you early on, when I would ask people, do you know what city council is? That this is your voice in local government. And they had no clue as to what city council was.
Right,
So
right.
when you walk away from the community, and these are hardworking members of or residents of the city of Mount Vernon, both on the north, the south, the east, and the west, who are saying the same thing, that they have no idea what city council is or what local government is, other than the mere fact that there seems to be a lot of dissension between groups that run our local government. We must get people to realize they have to become involved. And I've said to them recently, the second most important thing they have to do is they have to go vote in November. If they don't vote in November, then we've completely given up.
Okay.
And there's no hope for any of us if we don't. How can we then change Mount Vernon? I think once people begin to look at what takes place, because we have a lot of smart folks in Mount Vernon.
Absolutely.
And once we get their attention and we explain to them why we are here and we offer them solutions as to, or recommendations as to where we can go, I think they're wise enough to make the appropriate choice. And given a chance in the very near future to possibly change the leadership of our city, there might be a new horizon in store for us in short order.
But if you was offered the job today, you would not take it.
For a commissioner?
Yeah.
No.
Not if there were new leadership, you might consider it.
Yes.
That's more straight to the point.
It is.
Welcome, Pastor Holder. David Randolph Holder is tuned in from New Rochelle. Forget the name of the church on.
Hey, Pastor Holder, what's happening, my brother? I want to respond to Mikey Bo.
Yeah, I wanted you to respond.
He says, when are you going to have Officer Bovell on your show? I heard that he has a lot to say in regards to the corruption and cover-ups within the PD. We had Bovell scheduled one day. He came by himself. I told him he got to come with his lawyer. I don't want him saying anything without his lawyer present, because sometimes you could get emotional and you start going on, and then you end up saying things that you shouldn't be saying, and the lawyer will be here to stop him, interrupt him when he goes too far. But he was scheduled a couple of months ago. He did come to the studio, but he didn't have his lawyer, and I advised him, say, listen, bro, I don't think it's a good idea for you to come on the show without your lawyer. If you know Bovell, tell him to give me a call. We could schedule a date, and he could come on and come on with his lawyer, and they could talk whatever they want to talk about.
I wonder. I got one more question I was trying to get to earlier. So, in the instance, there was a hit and run situation where one of Spezio's garbage trucks, a guy was in a laundromat. His car was parked in the parking lot. The video, the surveillance from the business shows the carting truck come in, push the parked car halfway across the parking lot, so he can get to doing a lot of damage to the car, so he can get to the dumpster. Then what they did was they drove back out, almost all the way, but still never out of the camera angle, and then drove back up like they just got there, right? So this was caught. The person I contacted Councilman Wallace because they didn't know who to go to. They got advice. He went to file a police report, and the police would not take the statement because it was about Spezio's company. I've talked to the gentleman. We did a story on it. I covered the whole thing and everything. Like, I just want you to speak to that. And that's one of the things when we talk about the conflict of interest with the dual roles. Why that's a dangerous, when you tell people, you say things, people wonder why you're saying it. That's just one example of the possible conflict. Like, how can I go tell you on you? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're in, you know. So I just want you to speak.
Well, in that particular case, what I would have said to that individual was, if you can't get any response from the Mount Vernon Police Department, then surely your insurance company that carries your insurance liability can conduct an investigation, secure videotapes if required, because they have the legal authority to do so, and pursue it from that position at this particular time.
Well, he got the video himself to give to them, but
So-
he needed the police report for the insurance company, though.
Well, all he has to do is tell the insurance company how he was treated by the police department. The mere fact they refuse to take the report, and then it becomes incumbent upon the insurance company to move forward with that. Because,
Okay.
you know, with the liability issue, if they realize that it was no fault of his, then there will be no financial liability. He would
Right.
suffer.
Right.
And it would be incumbent upon the insurance company to move forward and
Okay.
pursue it to whatever extent they could.
Right. Because I talked to, I talked to Kayla after the guy, and I was out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. It happened. I was out there till 3 o'clock in the morning with him. And when he looked me in my face, and it reminds me of this guy again, he said, "What do you do when the police are protecting the people that are violating you? Who do you go to?"
Well, there's
and that was just like,
always a plan B.
yeah,
There's
but I'm
always
just
a
saying this
plan
guy
B.
was so like hopeless. He was like, yo,
Right.
and it's the same thing. I went to the police, and they wouldn't take. Who do you go to now? Like,
Right.
what do you do? You know,
Well, when the alarm went off at the tennis center,
Yeah.
I mean, you really want to hear a good one? When the alarm went off at the tennis center and the owner was notified, he called the police and said there was a burglary occurring. And I'm led to believe, now, I wasn't privy to the conversation, but I'm led to believe that the dispatcher from the police department said that there was an undercover operation at his location, and there was no need to dispatch police because they were there already.
wow.
I thought that was, again, another brain
Boggle,
Right.
yeah, right.
brain-boggling remark.
Right.
I mean,
Undercover
I just want to say, we have
You know-
a story that we're doing on Kayla. They are challenging all the things that the mayor, the Thomas administration has said, and they're presenting facts
Right.
As they see it. And one of the things that I just want to keep reiterating, the mayor said they owed over $500,000 in past rent, right?
Right.
Their
okay.
rent was $2,300 a month.
Right.
They would have had to have been there for 10 years or over to
Hey,
owe that much money. Like,
whatever that money is,
Yeah.
then you go to landlord-tenant court.
right.
And you get an eviction order.
But I mean, the numbers still don't even add up to that, though, because
No.
everybody was outraged. Oh man, $500,000.
Right.
They should get kicked out. But there's no way to get to that number. Like, there's no way to even get to that number. And like Trump, and quoting the host of Meet the Press said about Trump, he keeps making these allegations and telling these stories that are provably false.
Mhm.
Not that we have to assume, but they're provably, like, the numbers just don't add up.
Mhm. Well,
Like,
there was some startup expenses that Kayla had to incur to open up the facility at the beginning, and I think that number was a couple $100,000, $200,000-300,000. So that could be that $500,000 plus rent that the mayor might be referring
Well,
to.
no, they paid. They even paid. The bubble they put up was like almost $1 million. Like, I mean, they spent the city had to do the exterior and they had to do the interior. They did their part. The city didn't do their part.
Well, from what I understand, they expended a couple $100,000 to open up. That the city
Okay.
was supposed to reimburse them, either by a reduction in rent or a check for that dollar amount, whatever it may be. And that was one of the issues that was still being negotiated between Kayla and the city, from what I'm led to believe. And so I can understand why he's using that $500,000 number, because it's what was owed Kayla plus the leasing fee on a monthly basis. So that could be 300, 400, 500,000. But still, the negotiations, from what I'm led to believe, was ongoing.
Well, ongoing.
And it hadn't reached the point where there was a stalemate.
Because
And there
Kayla
was-
said they got no paperwork. They got nothing. They got nothing.
Well,
I mean-
from what I understand also, there is a 30-day terminate clause in the contract that he had, the leasing agreement. So the city did have the right to notify him and say that we're going to terminate your lease agreement within 30 days.
But they
It
didn't.
doesn't say
Yeah.
that they're going to take possession. It simply says you're terminating the contract.
Right.
The possession is another item to be addressed. So it all flows around who has right and who's
Right,
wrong.
right.
And you know, I think the courts will decide in the
Absolutely.
short term.
Absolutely. And Kayla, because I specifically asked them, did they get any paperwork asking about that? And there was nothing that they got. They said the only paper that they got was a piece of paper, and they showed it to me and dated and everything. And it said that they had to close down while they were demolishing the stands because the debris and everything would be unhealthy for whatever. But the date of the paper he's showing in the picture that he took on his phone has a date. He's holding it up, and in the background, the stands are already demolished.
Right, down.
Like, Kayla showed me the paper, that's the only paperwork he's, according to Kayla, because, I mean, he could be not showing me something, too. But according to my conversation with him and what he produced for me, that's all that he never received the 30-day, he never received, because I specifically asked those questions several times. Right. And he's, and the previous situation, no violations and stuff comes after they lock you down.
Right.
Like, then the stuff comes out,
Right. They're going to fortify their case.
Right. Any last words? I know we coming to the close of the show. Anything we didn't ask you?
Well, I want to thank Damon, AJ,
Thank you, brother,
for inviting me to come aboard. There are a lot of things that I would like to have said publicly, and you guys gave me that chance. We'll talk again as things begin to change.
Absolutely.
In the city, and you guys think it's important, especially if it's a topic around criminal justice or the administration of the city at large. If you need me to come aboard and share my opinions about it, I'd be more than happy.
The doors is always open.
Absolutely.
Bro.
Thank you.
Like I told you when you was running, man.
You gotta go there again.
Bob, any last words?
Well, just thank you for coming on and sharing your insights with us. I hope that has helped to resolve some of the questions that our audience members have about the dispute that's been going on ever since Mayor Thomas entered into and began his administration. So thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you, brother, for coming on, man, and giving people the facts, from a real police commissioner perspective, and with your vast history in law enforcement is we need that. People need to hear that. So we're just trying to give people the information, and everybody that's listening, if you haven't got the paper, please get the paper. There's some great articles in there. We're trying to do what we can do to inform the people, and also I like to say real quick that Blacks in Law Enforcement announced today that we fully support California Representative Maxine Waters. We know that she has been getting a couple of death threats because she decided to be that woman to stand up against Donald Trump in support of a lot of the families, and also calling racism and not being afraid to speak truth to power. So we put out a statement today that we're requesting all Black law enforcement organizations to be on the watch for the sister when she travels, whether you're on duty or off duty, and that's Auntie Maxine, and we're going to protect our sister no matter what these racists say, and no matter what the Trump administration say. She has the right to use her bully pulpit as elected official to speak truth to power, even if it's Trump.
AJ, I'd like to
Absolutely.
just add to that by saying, let's not just appeal to the black officers. Let's appeal to all
officers.
Well, we
all
try.
police officers. No,
We try.
They're the solid majority that are out there doing what they're supposed to do day in and day out. So
Absolutely.
I'm only saying to you, let's appeal to all law enforcement officers to watch Maxine's back.
We're
Absolutely.
going to appeal to all, but unfortunately,
Well, specifically
it
the
was
black ones.
it was white law enforcement organizations that supported Trump. It was white law enforcement organizations that union presidents that stood with Trump. The FOP, which is the biggest organization, put out a memo, 100 Days of Trump, where they wanted him to turn back a lot of protections, a lot of civil rights protections, and even the immigration issue. So I'm not going to appeal to all of them, because I know a lot of the white ones was supporting Trump, especially the FOP and a lot of these crazy police unions around here, the law enforcement unions that's supporting these Republicans. So
Well,
I can't appeal to all of them. I know there's some good white ones in there, but on the face and what we see, the white law enforcement organizations are still behind Trump with this crazy Blue Lives Matter stuff and talking about blue racism and all that.
Yeah,
but want to disrespect Black Lives Matter and our fight, because not just black kids are getting killed, but black cops are being shot and killed by their white counterparts, and nothing's being done.
I was called out by Blue Lives Matter.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about them because they don't hear you to begin with. So don't worry about them. Call out to all brother officers.
All the officers.
All the officers.
Real quick,
the one
Bob.
that hear you will respond.
Okay, I get that.
Bob.
Oh, this was a little bit of a joke, Commissioner. I work at BCC, and I'll just say that since you're a former Commissioner of Finance, tenure track positions are hard to come by these days.
Well, with that, I just want to thank everybody for listening, everybody for tuning in, 2 of our county legislators for chiming in. Everybody, even if I didn't get to your comment, like Damon said, please check out the July issue. This is our 12th issue. Next month is our 1-year anniversary issue. August is also the 4-year anniversary of this show. July 13th is also the 4-year anniversary of blackwestchester.com. I know you're trying to say something. I see.
Yeah, tomorrow.
I was going to say that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you going to say it?
Yeah, that was next. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, man. Go ahead.
Don't forget to tune in tomorrow to our show, the Black Westchester Power Hour on WVOX from 11 a.m. to 12 noon, where our guests will be, Damon?
Councilman Jamani Williams, who's running for lieutenant governor, and he has some things that he wants to announce. I guess some great announcement, great endorsement, and he'll be on our show live, and we'll be on live on Facebook, so y'all can check it out. And I think with everything that's going on in New York politics, the young lady that beat the long-standing
what's her name?
Democrat, shows there's a change coming, and she was also a Bernie delegate, so that's very important. So I think I think this November is going to be some very interesting elections going on.
Alexandra
Ortiz.
Cortez.
Yeah, but we got to vote. We got to come out and vote. We got to come out and vote.
With that said, you could be doing anything else right now, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. Make sure you check out the current issue. Make sure you check out the show tomorrow. You are tuned in to Black Westchester Presents, the People Before Politics radio show. We're on every Sunday, 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com. With that said, until next week, peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.